Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Inside Interviews, an online podcast series hosted by the Rooted Futures organization, where we discuss business and career advice with industry experts. My name is Samuel Lacote. I'm the global president at Rooted Futures, and joining me as a moderator is Colton Leonard, director of operations. And for today's episode, we're grateful to be joined by Paul Rubrich, who is a managing director at CIBC US. So, Paul, thanks for taking the time out of your day to get on this call with us to help the future generation of entrepreneurs. Maybe before we start asking questions, could you share a bit about your day-to-day life and sort of like what your job entails?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys. I really appreciate the venue and thanks for letting me speak. So let me as far as my day-to-day job, I am a commercial banker for CIBC, which is Canadian Imperial Bank. And I am a managing director and really in charge of business development for my group. And what my group really does is endeavor to establish revolving lines of credit with other lenders that are not banks. And the prototypical loan that we engage with is anywhere between 25 and $100 million. And we're there to lend to other lenders, whether it be those lenders in turn would lend to consumers or other businesses, kind of business to business loans. So that's kind of what I do every day.
Yeah, that's quite fascinating. So kind of hopping into our first question here. For young entrepreneurs interested in business or finance, what would you say are the best strategies for building credibility and networking with top professionals? Because that's so important in the business world, especially.
Yeah, when I think about networking and for what I've done over the course of my career, it really is all about engagement, curiosity, and learning what makes people tick in business. I think at the heart of it is once you learn what motivates people and vice versa, when they understand, what kind of makes you tick, you reach a stage where you can kind of help each other in business, and that when you go along that path, it kind of engenders trust and builds relationships. And as you build that relationship, it's that network helps expand. You learn who somebody else is, and you establish either a business relationship or a combination of a friendship, and that permeates kind of out in the market, and they might introduce you to certain other people within that. And so, like I said, it really is kind of understanding who people are and just having a curiosity about each other. That's at the key of everything.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So again, that's amazing. Now moving on to question two. What key experiences or lessons have shaped your early journey as a leader in finance? And maybe more specifically, how did you navigate maybe initial hardships or setbacks you might have faced early in your career?
I would say when I was starting out as a younger banker, a lot of what I tried to do was model myself after the behaviors and characteristics of the older bankers that I worked with and that were my teachers and mentors at the time. And one of the things that when I was doing that, I was realizing that I was not having good success either in like generating new business or like retaining existing business. And it really took one of my colleagues to kind of take me aside and give me the feedback that it just seems like I was acting to a certain extent, like
Yeah.
that you would see in a Hollywood movie. And that actually helped spur like a self-realization that maybe the best approach was just to be myself, and that when people see the passion that you have for business and who you are and what motivates you, as I kind of said in the previous answer, is like, that is when I actually then realized, a better path for me to kind of conduct myself. And so that was really one of the early revelations that I had.
Yeah, I mean, great response, and I'm sure that that helps a lot progressing up into the levels. Going into kind of banking, what would you say are the foundational financial skills or concepts that you think are critical for inspiring aspiring investment bankers starting out in the industry?
That's a great question. And, when I thought about this particular question, I think a lot, especially in the investment banking field, is that you get bombarded with like a lot of different sets of data, lots of information and knowledge about a client, whether it be about the executive team or about their business model, so on and so forth. And taking all those disparate, sets of information and being able to kind of synthesize that and kind of making a mosaic of all that information into something that's value added and into something that people can find unique and accretive is like one of the true key skills that can help develop deals and move things forward.
Yeah.
That's great. And then like our next question is sort of similar. Um, at least to you, how should the youth, approach learning out financial markets? And then, if we go into like more specifics, would you recommend any books, courses, or experiences to gain a competitive edge?
Business moves so fast. Like I don't know about gaining a competitive edge. As soon as something is published and it's disseminated, like everybody learns about it. Like I don't know that edges stay very sharp for that long. But I will say, probably my favorite author in the business world is Michael Lewis, and he wrote some pretty famous books. One of them is called Liar's Poker. The other one's The Big Short and
Mhm.
Moneyball. I think they've made movies of each one of those. But anyways, what I love about those is it's there it does go into some financial details to a certain extent, but really it also offers a good portrayal of like business is conducted between people and how people behave and just looking in the insight of human nature, I think is fascinating, and how that relates to business, I also think is fascinating. So, like every time Michael Lewis comes out with a new book, like I'm that's it's on my it's in my Amazon cart as soon as it comes out.
Yeah. I watched The Big Short actually, and I thought that was a great film. Um, quite interesting. So how can young people effectively leverage mentorship? Obviously, as you're trying to rise up the ranks and develop new skills, mentorship is very important. And what qualities would you look for in a mentor just starting off?
Yeah, as far as like, a mentor or like mentees, I really think it's driven by passion.
Mm.
Business careers tend to be very long careers and involve lots of hours and lots of work. So there is burnout that can happen over the course of time. But like what sustains you through those periods where it just seems like a lot of work? It really is a love and passion for what you do. So like if I haven't had too many mentees in my career, like oops, sorry about that. There's been some young bankers that come up in our group, and I try to advise them as they rotate through our group. And what I always advise them is like passion will see you through to the other side of a lot of different set whether it be burnouts or different types of setbacks. So like just retaining a love of what you do usually translates into longevity.
Okay, that's amazing. And again, it's great of you and maybe more so in general, all of the the people who've actually climbed the corporate ladder to be helping out maybe the next generation. So I guess our next question would be obviously your role at CIBC entails working very closely with some companies. some of them newly conceived and some of them maybe more established. Maybe even in general, what common mistakes do you see young and maybe youth founders making? And especially when approaching banks or investors, how can they afford or how can they avoid, sorry, these pitfalls?
Well, I think especially for, newly formed companies, there is a lot of thought about like, hey, we want to demonstrate to the bankers about what our growth and potential could be. And while that is something that there's an area of concentration for us on, growth isn't the end all be all answer. And then, quite frankly, growth also tends to translate into how we think about risk. If companies become too overstretched or, they don't have the necessary operational wherewithal, that can pose a problem for a bank in the sense of there's been plenty of companies that have stumbled during those growth periods. You can see it in the Wall Street Journal every day about somebody that grew too quickly, and without enough kind of forethought about what that ultimately might mean. So I think as far as what should be on everybody's mind is like growth is generally a good thing. Like if you've got a business model that you think can add value out on the market, doing more of it uh, can just add more value out on the market, but growth has to be controlled and well thought about.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And so when those companies are kind of failing or experiencing roadblocks ahead, what strategies within your line of work, I'm sure you also have experienced those, lots of work and hard decisions. What strategies do you help use in order to preserve and make these critical decisions within your career?
There, how should I say it? Failure is always going to happen, right? It's banking is a little bit like baseball. Like even players that have a batting average of 300, that translation is that you're making 7 outs out of every times that you swing the bat.
Mhm.
Um, in banking, it's the same way. There can, for every deal that you win, there can be plenty of deals that you lose. So I think where I always think the focus should be on is what can you get out of those circumstances where it didn't go according to plan? What can you learn? And so like just having that mindset of continuously trying to improve and learn from every circumstance that you or every experience that you have is, I think, a very key aspect of getting better and being able to kind of deliver in a marketplace.
Yeah, and I think that answer resonates so greatly with all of our members at Rooted Futures as well, because I mean, you look at any great inventors, Newton, right? He failed
Yeah.
numerous times before he had a successful approach, and so that'll also happen in the startup phase. So I think that's just great advice that you're giving us.
Well, I'm happy.
Yeah. And I mean, I know we've been talking a lot about innovation and entrepreneurship, and sort of tied to this is, I'm sure if as we've all witnessed, in the past few years, there's been the rise of cutting edge technologies, specifically AI and large language models. And to that, the question I have for you, Paul, is how can young entrepreneurs or aspiring businessmen leverage these cutting edge technologies and these new tools to increase their productivity and increase their efficiency?
Well, I think, probably at the start of it, it really is just networking and keeping abreast of all these advances. And then secondly is just to a certain extent, maybe not immediately employing all these things, but like making sure that you have the necessary sandbox to kind of test it and see what works for you and what you might want to set aside. So like um I think there's always this notion of like, hey, let's try something out and see how it goes, and doing that in a manner that doesn't that can be afforded by your enterprise.
Yeah. Talking about like the new changing world, obviously we see AI, but within this new society, it's really affected the youth, right? We see increased screen time use and different societal issues that come up. And nowadays, a lot of young individuals are struggling with self-doubt and not being confident. So, what advice do you give to the youth struggling with self-doubt, and how can they develop the mindset needed for sustainability, growth, and resilience, especially within the world of business?
That's a great question, and I really think it's perspective, and the perspective that the place that you have in your journey is also the place that everyone who you've ever met and that you will ever meet has also been at one point in their journey,
Mhm.
and that there will always be ups and downs. But if you have a passion for what you do and you can see learning in each one of those experiences, that ultimately that provides the resilience that will take you through those ups and downs. I was in high school as junior or senior at one point in time too, and you can trust me that I wasn't as advanced as you guys are. So like I feel fully confident that you guys can go on that journey and do well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for your kind words. And again, what's great is that this isn't just motivation for myself and Colden, but also for the hundreds of other members we have around the world, and hopefully the thousands who get to view this interview. So again, thank you so much for your time. We both really appreciate it, and we're confident this is gonna help many other young entrepreneurs like ourselves.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll be on the lookout for the share of the company coming my way.
Thank you, Paul. We appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you,
guys.
Paul.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
You as well.